Afternoon. My name is Elisa Blank. I'm with Watertown City School District, and we are here at Knickerbocker Elementary, and we're very excited to share with you some details about our summer STEM camp programming. We ran a session for 4 weeks that involved virtual 3D printing, and so I have my team that collaborated on this project with me here. I have Julie Williams, who is a Makerspace advisor and member of our STEM staff at Knickerbocker Elementary. I have Lisa Gamage, another member of our Makerspace staff and STEM staff, who is at Sherman Elementary, and Kevin Chamberlain, who is a 4-H after-school program coordinator with Cornell Cooperative Extension of Jefferson County. And I am the director of STEM programs for the district. We are very fortunate to have the opportunity to provide our students with summer STEM camp programming, thanks to funding from the Department of Defense Educational Activity. We've been doing this since 2016. And it's been an interesting challenge for us this year with COVID-19. We really scrambled to try to figure out how do we take our very hands-on programming and bring it to our kids in the virtual environment. In the process of doing so, we created virtual robotics programming where we sent robots home with kids. We did a mini maker series with videos and activity kits that we sent home to kids, and some parents picked them up. And the third maker type activity in that camp was our 3D design and printing, which we did in partnership with Cornell Cooperative Extension. We have worked in partnership with Cornell Cooperative Extension since 2017 and are really thankful for this opportunity. It enables us to reach far more students than we would otherwise, and we provide some great experiences to them. We're also a member of the North Country STEM Learning Network, which is affiliated with the International STEM Learning Ecosystems Network. And that's been a great partnership as well that supports our activities. So I would like to turn this over to our Makerspace advisors for the Watertown City School District to talk a little bit about how they overcame some of the challenges that we faced with this move to virtual programming. Lisa and Julie, take it away.
All right, beginning in late March, we began the STEM Boredom Busters, and we created that for K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and 9 through 12th grade to promote student engagement and STEM learning in spite of all the COVID challenges going on. And I think Julie did part of the K2.
I did part of the K2.
Do you want to share some of what you did during the K2?
What we did is we picked a story, and the kids were able to watch that via YouTube, and then we had an activity that they could do along with that, a STEM activity. And a lot of it was stuff that they would already have at home as far as materials, because we weren't providing materials at that time, but most of the stuff we figured they had at home already.
And from that, I think we had expanded some of what we did beyond that, that grew into part of our makerspace, part of STEM camp over the summer, where we created our little mini maker series. And it was a fun way to get students engaged in doing maker projects by creating these tutorial videos where Julie and I would create a STEM project, and then the kids could recreate it at home once they got those kits, and they came to pick them up that week.
I'm diving back in for a minute because I'm going to encourage you to really check those out. They had a lot of fun making these videos. They're great fun to watch. We will go through at the end of this session a little run through on how to access their videos and our resources on our website.
Some of the things that we did during those mini maker series was we did giant bubbles. So we put our lead teacher, Jean Hinckley, in a giant bubble, as well as Mrs. Blank. And we did solar oven s'mores.
We made tie-dye kits and sent them home with the kids with the tutorial so they could make their own tie-dye t-shirts. We did chemical reactions.
Sidewalk chalk.
The DIY games. Where they made their own cornhole games out of a cardboard box.
Yep.
So next, Kevin Chamberlain is going to talk a little bit about the project activities specifically focused on 3D printing. And Kevin has a unique background in starting all this 3D printing work virtually as soon as the COVID-19 crisis caused our schools to close back in March. So we entered the summer STEM camp season with a bit of an advantage. So Kevin will talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so Tinkercad is a great resource to utilize. Tinkercad, if you're not familiar, is entirely free. And I really like it because Tinkercad also allows you to act as a classroom sort of setting. You can actually set up student accounts. You can share those accounts with your students, and you can also monitor the projects that your students are working on. So great resource that's entirely free and very user-friendly to use. I know that 3D printing, 3D modeling can be a little daunting for many. I know it was for me. But Tinkercad also has a lot of free tutorials within their own program. So not only can that help you feel more comfortable with Tinkercad, but it also is a great resource to use for your students. So I strongly recommend checking out Tinkercad and thinking about implementing that in some of your programming. So with our particular project, our classwork, we had 4 weeks to teach Tinkercad and 3D modeling. So the very first week, we just wanted to get them rolling. So we got them set up with their accounts, and we learned the basics through creating keychains and pendants. Because there are a lot of basic shapes, they like having their name on their project. So it's very rewarding to get a project printed at the end that they can see their designs, their creativity come to fruition. So very cool project. Moving into the second week, we certainly took it up a notch. We learned about scaling and creating replicas by trying to mimic or replicate architecture. This could be fictional architecture that they might have seen from a movie or a TV show, or it could be something that exists in real life. But the idea was that they had to look at the ratios and scaling of something in existence to try to create a model that was as close as they could get to what actually exists. The third week, I forgot, so some of the cool projects, and these were all created in our last program, but this was made by George. He was replicating a Sith temple from the Star Wars animated TV show, and I think George did a phenomenal job. It looked very cool, so great job, George. We had Layla. This is one of my favorite projects, and I printed off a couple of the examples too. But Layla did the Disney castle, and she did a phenomenal job replicating all of the towers and the courtyard of this castle. So excellent job. First time doing Tinkercad too.
We'd like to share a time-lapse video with you just to kind of show a bit about how this works. We've used Affinia 3D printers for this camp.
So for those of you who aren't familiar, of course, 3D printing has to layer down layer by layer. So it's starting at the base, making that platform, and it's slowly adding layer upon layer to create a three-dimensional structure. So you can kind of see that come to life, that 3D model that was created digitally, see it come to life through a 3D printer. Now, of course, we here at Watertown City School District are very fortunate that we have access to 3D printers. Not everyone might be so fortunate. I still would recommend Tinkercad, being that free resource, has a lot of opportunity to still create three-dimensional models, even without the ability to actually print a physical object. So then, did we want to move into the
Well, I thought maybe, sure, we can do that.
Oh.
I thought maybe you'd share the models just quickly.
Oh, yeah, so you probably can't see a lot of the details so far away, but, oh, you want to? Yeah.
It's a little bit hard to see this in black, but maybe if we switch to the...
Oh, there you go. And if you look closely, you can see that it laid down all of these different layers to create a three-dimensional object. So really neat how it does that.
And Cinderella's castle. We printed this much larger when it was initially printed. How large was this? Do you recall?
It was probably about 6 to 8 inches tall. It took about 9 hours to print.
And the student put this all together from shapes. So it was a pretty intricate design here. And the student who did this, 5th or 6th grade?
I think she was 6th grade at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So over 60% of our students in camp were 4th graders, or they just had finished 4th grade. So for them to be doing some of the intricate designs that you see, learning Tinkercad to that level, to be able to create these with shapes that they generate from scratch, pretty impressive work.
Certainly. And another thing, don't be, and that all being said is exactly what Lisa said, with many of our students having been fourth graders. Don't be afraid to try this out with some of the younger students. It's more approachable and feasible than I think many realize. It just takes a little bit of practice, but it's a lot of fun just trying out the program.
I know before COVID happened, Julie and I have done several different 3D printing projects with our groups at Watertown. And we've done projects with pre-K through fourth grade. And I've even helped assist one of the 3D print projects with the 15-1 second grade class in our district as well. What did you guys do with the pre-K here?
With pre-K, they designed their own snowflakes on the Snowflake Creator program through Thingiverse, and then we brought it into Tinkercad to print it.
Yeah, I believe we did the snowflakes as well. We printed them off for like the festival of trees, like the third graders got to help out with that, so they really enjoyed doing that. The 15-1 group I was talking about before, they actually did a fun piece. Their teacher came up with the idea of doing conversation hearts around Valentine's Day. So they got to drag the heart shape over to Tinkercad, and then they got to write whatever saying they wanted on it. And they really, really loved it. Their faces just lit up as soon as they saw the finished product.
That's so cool.
We've done Lucky Charm backpack charms here. So it's where the kids took the hearts and they put one on there and then copied it and pasted it, but they had to rotate it and then merge them together, and then they used the letter I for a stem.
Oh,
And then we grouped it and they put a hole in them and they used them for backpack charms.
The options are really limitless. It's amazing what you can do with it. So, but that last project was the one that Lisa showed on the camera. But this is the last one that we'll show for the architectural part. And Mila did a phenomenal job. I mean, you can just see the level of detail that Mila put into trying to replicate that structure. So incredible job, Mila. So then we moved into something even more complex that I know I struggle with this. Creating a lot of these organic shapes is challenging in something like Tinkercad. It starts with a lot of, Tinkercad's all about building on top of shapes or removing using existing shapes. So it's a little bit difficult to try to get that organic feel or a cartoon character using shapes like that. But you can see I'm especially impressed with the student that did that Olaf character. They used the drawing tool to get the arms, those thin little stick arms, and just nailed that character perfectly. So phenomenal job. And then that last week, we just kind of let them create their own original project. We wanted them to just explore Tinkercad and all of its capabilities, and just create whatever they wanted to. That's kind of the joy of any of these maker activities, is being able to just create, and especially something original. So you can see they had a lot of fun just making a lot of unique designs.
Yeah, I think some of the best learning comes from letting them just step outside of the box and kind of figure things out on their own sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, like when we print things, there ends up being errors or mistakes and it doesn't print right, but that's all part of the learning process with doing 3D printing and a lot of the other STEM projects that we do.
They learn a lot about scaling.
Yes.
Yeah. And there was the one slide that perfectly reflects what Lisa was just talking about too. One of the challenges I think with a lot of virtual programming in general is, how do you keep them engaged or interested? You don't really want to fall into this format where you're just lecturing to students. You really want to still give them the opportunity to explore and learn on their own. So what we did is we continued, and we'll show this here in the PowerPoint, I think it's the next slide, is we did Pictionary through Tinkercad. And this was an absolute blast. So what we did is we just had set prompts for the students. So one of the prompts was superheroes, for example, and each of the students would only have about 5 minutes to create something that would connect with a superhero. And then, of course, we would share it on through Zoom, and the rest of the students would have to guess what superhero they were trying to create. So much fun. We had a blast with this, and it's a great way, exactly like what we were talking about, to get them to try to explore Tinkercad and just have fun with it. And the other prompt was SpongeBob, and I showed 3 different versions. Of course, several of them tried to do that classic pineapple. It's kind of interesting to see how some of them use different techniques to get that same design. So really cool.
I just want to dive back in for a second here because as we think about how we engage kids online in this time when we hear about everybody being zoomed out and being stressed about the current situation, this is a great way for everyone to have fun in a game-like setting. Students could be doing this at home. Parents might do some fun activities like this, design activities, just to bring kids together to have fun and play and talk in a virtual environment. So it doesn't have to be all work.
That's a great point, Lisa, because I maybe not as much during the summer program, maybe it was too early, but I know when I had taught this separately over the springtime, I was shocked to see how many parents were on with their child and just assisting along with their child. And I was having several parents even email me separately where they were playing around with it too. They were learning Tinkercad along with their child. So that was really heartwarming to see.
Oh, back to the Pictionary thing. Didn't you had office hours set up during summer STEM camp too? So that's a time where students are able to go back, and if they have questions about how to do things, they get more of an individual, like one-on-one time with the teacher to get help. Didn't they end up wanting to play Pictionary more because they were so excited about doing it to begin with? They were like, yeah, let's do it during office hours. So they hopped on and did that.
Yeah, our very last day with office hours, you would think, well, we already finished all of our projects. There's no need for office hours on the last day of camp. But we actually had the most attendance on the last day of office hours because everyone wanted to continue playing Pictionary. So it was a great time.
That was a surprise outcome. I would say we would have never walked into this realizing that Pictionary would be so popular with Tinkercad. But can you speak a little bit about the structure? Like how much time did you spend online? What did you find with students dropping in for those office hours?
Yeah, of course, like anything, all students learn at different rates. Sometimes when it takes a little bit of time for it to just sort of click, and then they can be more independent. They need that sort of foundation first. So it does take a little bit of time in the beginning to kind of get everyone to the same point. And those office hours are really useful to just sort of assist students if they're kind of hitting a wall where they're having trouble kind of overcoming a challenge of, well, I don't know. I know I can visualize it in my head, but I don't know how to actually build that in Tinkercad. The office hours are a great opportunity to just sort of assist there. So give yourself time. I noticed that we didn't have as much time with the organic, that week 3 project. We spent more time on the architecture than I expected. So give yourself time to breathe in a program like this and give time for students to explore.
Yeah, and the office hours are a great idea for students because if you think about it, your students, some of them are at all different levels. Like you have some that are very tech savvy and then others that it's brand new to them or they just don't quite get it all the time. So it's the best time for those students that kind of need more of that attention to get the help that they need.
So we ask our students a number of survey questions every year, and this was our favorite. So one of the questions in the survey was, what should we plan for next year? And the response was from one kid, I'm not sure. What if they made a STEM camp for adults like my teacher? It would make them smarter in STEM and school would be better. We really like this one. It might have been our favorite bit of feedback. We do get a lot of positive feedback every year about students' interest in STEM careers. And a lot of, they want to come back. They don't want camp to end. We have kids in tears because their parents make them stay home because they have a fever. The kids really thrive on all of the hands-on active learning. the making experiences that we provide to them through this camp. So it has breathed new life into teaching for some of our teachers and learning for our students. We did, in the last 2 years, open up a day of our sessions for staff who are not involved with teaching in the camp setting, for them to come in and experience camp so that they could understand, a little bit about what makes this learning experience so different and so special for our students.
Mhm.
Any other comments or questions from our crew on this right now?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it would be great to start offering some opportunities for adults as well. It's just as pertinent and useful.
So before we transition to our website, we have a fun photo from last year's Maker Faire in Rochester, from the giant unicorn. We are sad that we can't be on a giant unicorn again this year, but I can tell you that it was really a great experience tuning in for Mario the Maker Magician this afternoon. It kind of breathed some of that joy and spirit of the Maker Faire, the live Maker Faire experience back into us. So thank you for that. We're going to transition now to taking a look at our website and where you can actually see our resources. So let me get back. I thought I had our website up and I don't, but anyway, I can direct everybody there from scratch. We're going to go to watertowncsd.org. So this is the Watertown City School District website, and we have worked to make our resources as accessible to our families and students as possible, and staff. So when you arrive at our landing page, and this is the same for all of our school buildings, we've got 8 schools in our district, there is a button here that's family resources. There's one also for staff, and you can get to what we're about to share from either of those buttons. But I'll start from the family perspective one. So families, when you land here on the left side, there is a menu. If you don't see the menu, there are horizontal lines with the drop down. Here's our Summer STEM Camp website listed at the very bottom. So at this point, staff, do you want to explain a little bit about how this was set up as a useful page for our students and families? What?
Right. I can go. I certainly used Google Classroom as another great tool to use. So I know I posted a lot of assignments through Google Classroom, and then we also collected their projects there too, so that when they finished a 3D project, they could post on there that they were finished. And thankfully, Julie was especially helpful. Well, both Julie and Lisa were especially helpful in getting these projects all printed. But I think it would have been much more challenging to coordinate all of that without something like Google Classroom.
It was definitely a team effort, and Google Classroom actually helped with our team collaborations as well.
And I believe Jean Hinckley had posted in Creativity Crew, she put all of the assignments weekly to, the weeks that went through our
Okay.
Makerspace. She did that. She set that up as well on here. So each of our little videos was able to get through to the kids. So, and that way, if they, for some reason, missed the Zoom, they could go back to the website and still were able to do the projects.
As you look across the top of the website, you'll see Creativity Crew. That was our Makerspace group for camp. Fabrication Flock was our 3D printing and design. Tinkering Troop and Gadget Gang were both, we had a lot of kids in robotics, so those were both robotics groups. And Solution Squad was our, they had an environmental science group, so they did more of the outdoor nature exploration types of activities. So there are a lot of different things that you can explore here. Again, I'm going to go back and feel free to explore and use our resources. The videos are a lot of fun to check out. So I'm going to go back to Fabrication Flock and just share with you that we have our presentation shared here. You are welcome to share that, view it, do what you want there. Here we also have our weekly activities. And these resources are really tremendous. If you look here, week 1, a full introduction packet, that is accessible here. Kevin, do you want to talk a little bit about how these were made and who created them you were involved with it as well, but you've got a couple of colleagues who did a lot of work here in helping with this.
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate and thankful to be working with so many incredible staff at Cornell Cooperative Extension, very gifted individuals, one of which was Tony Nicorvo, mainly created a lot of these phenomenal Tinkercad packets. It really helped walk through how you would get started with Tinkercad and learning a lot of those basic skills. So I would recommend taking a look at this yourself. And this would be a great introduction for you to just start getting comfortable and proficient with Tinkercad before you might bring it to your students. So great resource to use. And I can't thank Tony enough for setting this up. She did a great job. Very professional grade.
Very nice resource. So you see at the bottom a photo with some examples of the pendants that were created by the students in that first week. So then as you go on, week 2, the architecture unit, again, a very nice packet that helps describe the process and the lesson for students. Here, very beautiful example of the 3D printed architecture designs and actually a whole slideshow of some of the different things that our students created from scratch. Then we'll go to the 3rd week. So another packet for those organic shapes with character design and replication, examples from that work that was done. And then week 4 of freeform, we don't really have any instructions, but one of the things that we did want to share with you is this video about the process that is involved with trying to teach 3D design and 3D printing online. So Julie Williams is here sharing with students what's going on in the 3D printer as she's Zooming with them during STEM camp. It's a very different way to teach, so I want to share this with you. This is taking place at Wiley Intermediate School.
This is George's from the first group.
Okay, now the tricky part.
In the background, you hear Jean Hinckley teaching the Makerspace classes.
And then Lisa, as we're getting close to that end time, did we have any questions in the chat too for Zoom?
I believe that starts in 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to stop the share. I want to go back actually to the, sorry. I'm a little bit hung up here for a minute. I'll stop the share. Any other thoughts that you have for closing that we want to share within our audience?
No, I really want to stress that although we're in very strange times right now, we're needing to rethink a lot of the different ways in which we've conducted teaching and education. And again, we always think of maker activities as being hands-on. So it seems like that would be counterintuitive to what we need to now do with education, where everything is virtual and done through a computer. But you can still do a lot. You can still do all of these maker activities just with a little bit of innovation and a little bit of creativity. You can still bring a lot of these same projects to your students. So
I absolutely agree. Like, we want to do all the same activities, but we keep thinking, well, how can we do this? And we just have to think outside of the box a little differently sometimes. And we got to think, why can't we do these? So just have to approach things a little bit differently.
So I want to go back and share just a little bit about how you can get in contact with us if you have some questions. Just 1 second here. Go back to the beginning.
And I think I just saw in chat that there were no questions yet, but if any of you have any questions, just go ahead and send them in the chat and we can answer them for you.
And feel free, the website link is here for you to our general STEM page. That will give you access to the boredom busters that were described earlier, our camp activities and more. Feel free to connect with us at STEM WCSD on Twitter or at CCE_Jefferson on Twitter. We look forward to communicating and would love to share ideas with other people who are engaging in this effort. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Thank you for all who have been part of coordinating this great experience and keeping the Maker Faire spirit going in spite of our challenges. You're awesome.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.